Hi, my name is Catherine Miller, and today I'm going to talk about long-term English language learners. And the abbreviation is LTEL. I'm going to call them an LTEL. An LTEL is a subcategory of English language learner. These students have been in the United States school system for at least 6 years, and that means the majority of these students are in middle and high school. If you carried on a conversation with an LTEL, you would notice that they are not distinguishable from any native English speaker because they are completely fluent orally in the English language. Additionally, most of these students are also fluent in their native language. The way that these students are distinguishable from a mainstream student is that they don't possess the academic language and literacy skills necessary to be able to read and write at grade level. Obviously, this severely impacts their learning, and it becomes progressively more serious with each passing school year, as these students are not able to complete grade level tasks. Needless to say, these literacy gaps show up in standardized test results. So what factors contribute to LTEL's lack of literacy development? One of the problems is that we see that these students have learning gaps in their educational history, and this can be due to several factors. One of the possibilities is that it can occur because the family travels back and forth between their home country and the U.S., by spending extended periods of time without attending school. The child obviously misses a lot of learning opportunities. Another factor, since the majority of LTELs were actually born in the United States, the other possibility is that the family they live in poverty. And so the financial instability causes the family to have to move around frequently, and that causes disruptions in the students' learning. Another factor that contributes to an LTEL's lack of reading and written English literacy is that they don't have a solid foundation in reading and writing skills in their native language. Current policy in many U.S. states is to transition a student immediately to English, yet studies show that the transition is much more successful if a child has a solid reading and writing base in their native language, because then the student can use that language as a foundation to aid in their acquisition of English. So what are the consequences of failing to address the learning needs of the LTEL population? First of all, we're seeing that this demographic is continuing to grow. Approximately 10% of the U.S. K through 12 student population are English language learners. The research shows that between 23 and 74% of English language learners are LTELs. To put this in the context of numbers of students, in the Los Angeles Public School District in 2008-2009, there were 344,862 students who had been classified as an LTEL. By the 2015-16 school year, that number had grown to 380,995 students, which is an increase of 20%. So we're seeing, as a demographic, LTELs are becoming much more prominent in the U.S. school system. The overall graduation rate for native English speakers in the U.S. is about 85%, while the overall graduation rate in the U.S. for LTELs is about 49%. So that means that a significant part of the U.S. student population is not graduating, and if they do so, their academic skills are so poor that they will be unable to pursue higher education, higher paying jobs, they'll be paying fewer taxes, and so ultimately it will affect the U.S. economy. So how can teachers help LTELs reach their literacy potential? First of all, it is very important that these students be identified. And as I mentioned, you can't classify these students by their oral communication skills because they're fluent in English. So a classroom teacher needs to ask to receive notification about any student who has been in an ESL program. Also, if you are a special ed teacher and an English language learner shows up in your classroom, you need to make sure that that student has been properly staffed to receive special ed services and that they aren't just in your classroom as a form of remediation. So what are the different things that you can do once you've identified these students? First of all, LTELs need to be integrated into the school community. Often in middle and high school, ESL programs are operated like a school within a school. And whether the English language learners self-isolate or whether the mainstream students exclude them, it doesn't really matter. But ultimately what happens is that a cultural divide is created and these children, or you'll just see like how they socialize, they kind of like are off by themselves. So it's very important to make second language learners feel like they're part of the learning community as a whole. Second, it is important to encourage native language development. If there aren't teachers and paras who can assist with this because no one speaks the student's language, reach out to the community at large for a volunteer who can help the student develop their academic language and literacy in their native language. And as I said before, this will help provide a foundation for the LTEL to continue building their English language skills. Third, a big problem for LTELs is that they lag far behind their grade level peers in reading comprehension. By the time they have reached secondary, 6th through 12th grade, it's code red. It's time to provide these students with intensive one-on-one coaching from a teacher, a para, or a volunteer who can help them learn how to strategically break down text and read for comprehension. These students might be emotionally checked out by the time they get into secondary school. So it's very important to help them engage by offering culturally and linguistically relevant text and projects to spark their interest. And finally, these students need to continue developing oral language skills and being pushed to develop higher order thinking skills by discussing text with peers and teachers. Doing oral presentations or anything where the student has to speak and participate is very important. Oftentimes, LTELs make themselves invisible in mainstream classrooms, and it's important to make sure that they are participating in discussions. Thank you.